Hello there, my name is Henrik and welcome to this exclusive video series. Today we are going to talk about 3 essential photos tips that every Mac user must know. This is based on 6 years experience with the one-to-one coaching and coursing in Apple products. And this is so important that we made the videos free for everyone. Earlier, they were exclusive to our paying members only, but as it is so important, we just decided to give them away for free. In this video series, we're going to talk about 3 things with your photos. We'll start by how to import and sync your photos in the best way possible before we go into Photos and iCloud and talk about some pretty important things there, before we go into the best way to organize the thousands of photos that you probably have. The most important thing is that you try what we do here yourself, because that is the only way you will actually learn this and remember it for the future. At the end of the video series, there is also a special offer, so you can feel free to check that out whenever you want. And as you can probably hear, I'm from Norway, so I hope you won't mind the accent. Let's get started.
So, photos. Why is it so difficult to have control of them? And it's quite easy really to answer that question, because it's pretty much because you have so many of them. And one thing is to have many photos, and that's not necessarily a problem. However, it gets very difficult when your photos are fragmented. That means you have some photos in Finder, you have some photos in Apple Mail, or in Mail, you have something in iCloud, you have some on your phone, you have some on iPhoto, or you used to use iPhoto, you have some photos on digital cameras, maybe older cameras, and you might have external hard drives and backups with the photos. So having this many places or archives of photos makes it extremely hard. So when it comes to importing, I don't really want to talk about importing. I want to talk more about how we want to think about our photos or our pictures. And that will end up or conclude with that we want to use photos as our boss, or at least have one structure which contains all our photos. So the goal is basically to go from having photos all over the place to putting all of them into photos. So you might realize whatever, that your photos are located in Finder. That means when you have Finder open like this, you can go to pictures, and then you might have some pictures in here in folders. This is very normal to have 2016 for example, 2015, etc, etc. And then you have a lot of photos in here. Then you can also see that I have the photos library, Bilderbibliotek, that is photo library. And you might have some photos in your downloads folder, maybe some in documents, etc, etc. So having all those photos fragmented, that's one way in Finder. So we often have a lot of photos in Finder. Then we also have a lot of photos in Dropbox, for instance. So we have photos in one cloud here, but we also have it in iCloud, for instance. So I can go to Google Drive and I'll probably find some photos there, or Dropbox, whatever. You might have some in Apple Mail, etc, etc. So what we want to try to do is to take all the photos from the different archives, or where we have them, and put them all into photos. So what is the difference really? Because as you saw, the photos library is actually, I can actually rename that, is located in Finder as well. So what's the difference? The difference is that when you use your photo, or when you use Finder to have your photos archived, then it's just in a normal folder structure. But when you open them and have them in the photos library, they can't be seen, or they can, but normally they can't be seen other than going into photos. And here you can see that you have functions like people, for instance, you have photo streams, you have or shared iCloud albums, you have folders, etc, etc, or albums. You can order photo books, you can do all these different things. So when you have your photos inside the Photos library, that's actually very different from having them in Finder. And that's the same with having them in Google Drive or Dropbox, for instance. And when you have them in in iCloud, or no, and when you have them in Photos, you can also have them in iCloud. It's not really a good way of having your photos in Finder and then in iCloud at the same time. So in order to use iCloud, which most people would want to do, then we have to use Photos. Okay, so your pictures are many places, and you should, or my recommendation is that you should use Photos as the boss. And when you use Photos as the boss, you can use iCloud. And when you use iCloud and Photos, you should still have an external hard drive, which you use, for instance, Time Machine to back up your whole Mac. Because there are some risks using iCloud, like for instance, if your account is hacked, or if you borrow your phone or Mac or whatever to someone and they by accident delete all your photos, then it will be deleted across the whole system. So it's always a very, very good idea to, of course, have good security in iCloud and all that, but to have an external hard drive with a complete backup. So keeping it within one structure, that is basically the main point here. You can, of course, use Finder and Dropbox, but my recommendation is most definitely to use Photos and then use iCloud and an external hard drive for backup. Okay, so now we've talked some about how to think about your photos, and in order to do this, I recommend you to use iCloud, which we'll talk more about in the next video. And also, if you want to import your photos from different folders, let's say I just have to find a couple of photos here. So let's just take these photos. I can select the photos I want to import, and then you simply, just a second, drag them into Photos like this. And then you can see down here or on last imports that the photos I just imported were imported to the library. So I can secondary click and do, for instance, show in moment, and you'll see them there. Okay, perfect. So have a look at your photos, go around, and then see how your structure is. I'll see you in the next video.